wondered what it's really like to be a homemaker? Stay tuned to find out. To begin, I'd like to start by saying that in my personal experience, being a homemaker is very subjective. And this is just a collab based on a few questions that I'm answering in my own personal experience. I also would like to add that I believe that being a homemaker is not a gender exclusive field. I think that it is often relegated to women, but that is not the case. There are tons of caregivers and stay-at-home dads and grandparents and people from all walks of life who work within the home on a daily basis. I also would like to add that I personally believe that anyone who owns, rents, or maintains a space in which they live and dwell is a homemaker. You are making a home for yourself, even if you are single or don't have any children or whatever your situation is. So don't think of homemaking as just someone who is a woman and married and has children, because that may not be the case. I'd also like to add that for this collab, I will be reading questions off of my screen. So if you see me looking down, that's what's going on. Now, the first question is, have you ever had anyone say anything negative about you staying at home or working from home? And yes, I have. And actually, a lot of the comments came from other women who worked at home. Interestingly enough, in my former career path, I was an attorney. And in the few years that I did practice, I did not work in the home. And then when I needed to be a caretaker for my grandmother, I had to transfer and transition into working from home. And so during that transitional period, I had comments from family members. I had comments from other women in the blogging community who would say things like, you know, it must be really easy for you because you have those options, or oh, so you're at home and you're not going to homeschool, or oh, you're at home but you don't have some kind of other business. Oh, you're a blogger now. Oh, okay. So you can make money on a blog. How can I do that too? You know, and it never really occurred to me until later on that I began to see that people who work outside the home are often envious of those who work in the home, and vice versa. So a lot of the comments that you hear, you really have to take with a grain of salt, because sometimes people say things and it just doesn't come out the right way. And some people are salty and some people just don't know what they're talking about. So you kind of have to put a lid on that one really quick. The second question is, what is your favorite or least favorite part about staying home or working from home? Well, my least favorite thing about working from home would be, as an influencer and a blogger and someone who no longer is in the legal capacity fully, my days have a different time schedule. And by that I mean I do have a home office. I also have computers and gadgetry in several rooms of my home. And so my day doesn't ever end. My time doesn't belong to me. I can't qualify myself to everything that I'm doing, in so much as when I wake up in the morning, I need to check emails. I also have to, you know, get my child to school, my husband to school, walk my dogs, my responsibilities. Then each one of my different businesses online come into question. I also have to see if I have to schedule appointments for my mural painting business, in which I would have people come to my home and I have to do consulting work or, you know, stuff like that. And then there's also the online interest in social media and YouTube and filming and all these myriad of other things. And then in between that, I still have to eat. I still have to take care of my home. I still have to prioritize the other humans that live in my house and the things that I need to do for them, because I am home and part of my capacity is to be of service to others. It's something that's very important to me, but it wears you very, very thin. And so while most people who work in corporate America or are shift or contractual workers would have an endpoint to their day, I don't have that. There's no 4 or 5 o'clock. There's no cutoff point for me. And also, something to consider, I find that as I work from home, I often start thinking about things later in the evening and I'll have to get up and do them, or in the middle of the night a thought will pop into my head and I go, I forgot to do X and I need to get up and do that, whether that's something for work or something for the home or my family. And so all of my tasks and the hats that I wear converge all the time. And so that's something that I have to work on as part of my self-care routine, is to have those boundaries in place, because I find that working from home, I'm the one that breaks the boundaries and not other people. And then the thing that I like the most in the same vein is I like the ability to stop and do what I need to do. For example, if I feel like writing, I can do that. If I feel like I'm not feeling well and so I want to get in a few minutes on my yoga mat and I want to go and juice, I can do that. If there's something that I forgot at the store, I can go get that. If there's something that I need to do in terms of, the other day I needed to factory reset one of the iPads at home, I had an hour that I could sit down and tinker with whatever I needed. And back in the day, those little things like that were always Saturday activities. Like my Saturdays used to be so sacrosanct between going to the library and picking up dry cleaning and running errands. My time was super, super tight. And now it's not as much. I can designate things. I have time to do planning. I have time to look at things in my community that I ordinarily wouldn't have had time to do. And the best part, I now have time in my schedule that I can actually volunteer my legal services. I actually help with financial planning and legal services with a local women's shelter, and so I can do that work online. Also, when I was in college, in undergrad, I started my campus's first chapter of Amnesty International USA. So I now have time in my schedule to send out international petitions, particularly for women and children, and that's something that's very important to me. So I've allotted space in my week for that, and so that's super important to me, that all my heart projects get met. The third question is, what is your favorite and least favorite chore? Okay, let's see. My least favorite chore would be folding laundry. I just don't like it. I enjoy the warmth of towels, but I'm so nitpicky and OCD about things that it's very time consuming for me, because you know, my clothes have to hang a certain way on racks, and I have an order for socks, and you know, in my paperless kitchen, my flour sackcloths and my bar mop towels and all these things have to be separated, and so that's very tedious for me, but it has to be done. And then my favorite task would be, probably be vacuuming. When I was younger, my grandmother used to get me to mow the lawn, and so I liked the fact that mowing the lawn, kind of like vacuuming, is very immediate. And so you can instantly see when the floors are clean or something is tidied up. And so vacuuming has never bothered me. And the fact that I had the opportunity to test out a new Shark cordless vacuum that I'm really loving. I like the fact that I can just in an instant pull out the vacuum and go off and do that. So that's kind of nice to me, because I like to keep my home in such a way that I'm not really embarrassed if somebody were to come over. And so part of my minimalism journey is to utilizing tasks and chores that kind of keep me in that arena. And so that's my sweet spot, and that's why vacuuming is probably really cool for me. Eyelash, excuse me. The next question is, what time do I wake up and go to bed? Again, subjective. Depending on what projects I have going on around the house, or if I need to help the little one or some kind of issue like that, I try to be in bed before 10 p.m. I get up daily at 5 a.m. with the exception, if I have some kind of migraine or issue, it might be as late as 7 getting up. But my husband can get everybody off to school, and I pre-make our meals so they're ready to go for that too. So primarily me being up in the morning is me being delegated to take care of the fuzzies and to get in a workout routine, make sure, you know, laptop bags are packed and backpacks are packed and everybody's going where they need to go. And so for me, 5 a.m. is a really good time. But if I get up a little bit later, then it's okay. And on the weekends, I don't set a clock. I get up when I get up, with the exception of the first weekend of each month when my local farmers market's open. I like to be there at 7, so I would get up at 5:45 and get ready for that. But other than that, I usually wake up before my alarm goes off, and so for me, it's usually about 5. The next question is, let's see. Do you put anything on the background while you clean, work, cook, watch TV, radio, podcast, etc.? Yes, I actually have designated playlists on Spotify and Amazon Prime and Pandora, and I have specific devices in the house that they're already on. For example, we don't buy computer monitors. We buy smart TVs for the products that are not 2-in-1s or our Mac. And so on that, we would have the Spotify and the Pandora, and then I pre-program those channels. And then for, phones and iPads and things like that, I put those apps on there, and so they're ready to go. And for each one, I have a designated cleaning station. Lately, I have been into a lot of Paul Simon and the Lumineers, but I also love the Isley Brothers and Diana Ross. I'm also a fan of the Killers and the White Stripes, and so my music varies, everything from Louis Armstrong and Mozart some days to Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings and Tupac. So I mean, it just depends on the day, but usually for cleaning I have designated playlist. I also listen to podcasts quite a bit as someone who's getting into that arena, like The Simple Home, and I listen to Dave Ramsey. I also listen to The Minimalist, their podcast, and The Mustards, which are great. And so those are some of my favorites that I'll link below. Also, if I want something just in the background that kind of makes me laugh, I love a lot of stand-up comedy, especially oldie but goodies like Richard Pryor or Chris Rock, circa when I was in high school in the early 2000s, or Frasier. Frasier was always a favorite. And my absolute loves, things like The Golden Girls, because I could watch Delta Burke all day, and The Golden Girls because I am Team Sophia Petrillo all day. And let's see, what else do I love to watch in the background? I also catch up on my news. I have my like my BBC and CNN and those programs that are ready to watch. Or I have Hulu, so if there's any of local programming that I haven't seen, I can kind of have that on a loop, and so I may have that in the background. And the next question is, do you get dressed or stay in pajamas most days? I do get up, with the exception on Sundays. I might have on a house dress or a caftan, depending on the season, but generally I like to get up and have something pre-ready to put on the night before. I will lay out an outfit, whether that be yoga pants and a sweater coat, or my crocheted hat and a sweatsuit, or what have you, but I have something ready. It's been unseasonably cold in my area, and so I just really haven't followed the rules with that. But back in the day, I did have a job where I had to wear specific colors and outline what you could have on in both the office, giving or deposing clients, as well as being in court, and so not having those constraints has been really, really nice. But I do try to get up every day and put something on. Something else that I have been meaning to do coming this spring is I would like to have something kind of Zuckerberg-esque where I have a work uniform, and so that's something I'm trying to work into, and so we will see how that goes. And the next question is, how often do you do your hair and makeup? Well, that's another one. Again, in my former profession, I live in a state where it was mandated what, not men, but what women could wear in the capacity that I worked. And so women actually could only wear specific colors, dark, neutral colors. And in our law firm, it was suggested that you wear a full face of makeup. So I had the works. I had the blending brushes and the big makeup station and the whole rigmarole. And so after that, I just haven't really put the money into it. And then since becoming vegan, there's so many brands that are not cruelty free. I'm still really struggling with that area. And so most days I'm good if I can get, some pressed powder and some lip gloss or something on, but I do try to put a little face on and paint the barn before I go out in public. But at home, it is what it is. That's all. And so the next question is, what is your trouble zone or area in your home that needs the most help? And that would be my kitchen. Now, I am a minimalist and I have very few things on my counters, but one thing that I have an issue with is that I'm constantly with some kind of bowl of recycling or compost. And then I also tend to have, especially on filming days, 3 or 4 appliances going, like my juicer or dehydrator or blenders or something like that. So I like to, at night before I go to bed, constantly I'm in the kitchen and finding myself cleaning off spaces. And so that's something that I have to work towards, knowing that all the surfaces in a particular room are cleaned off, because I'm also a cat owner and you know they get on counters when you're not in there. So that's something I have to make sure is sanitized and clean before and after I cook meals and everything that's in my kitchen, because no matter how on top of your game you are, if you own pets, you already know about it. Let's see, the next question. How often do you find yourself getting distracted? Well, other than, say, Facebook, not really. It's all about time management and blocking your system. And something else I do is each night I try to take 5-10 minutes and brain dump things that I need to do. And then on Sundays, I will take all the brain dumps from the week, digitally compose them into one master list, divide the number by 5, and that's how many things I intend to do each day. I aim for 80% perfection 100% of the time, and things that don't get done will have to be re-relegated to some other day. And distraction is something I've had to move past. I have to maintain my systems in my day, because otherwise I would just, have nothing done. I mean, one day when all my work gets finished, like years from now, it might be nice to have kind of the Lucille Ball way of eating the bonbons and wearing the dress with the crinoline, but I'm not there yet, and I don't know that I ever will be, but you can always hope. Let's see, the next question is, do you enjoy staying home or do you miss the everyday job? Nope, not for a minute. I sure don't miss it. I worked in a very stressful environment. And people who have not worked in a law firm may not know this, but when you are new to a firm, when you are, before you're even, say, a junior associate, you are expected to put in 12, 13-hour days. And you're looking at working at a firm 10 to 12 years before making partner. So that's a huge commitment and time away from your family. And so I picked a career that was on, the wheel and part of the rat race, if you would. And then my other major was in art history. Now, let's say I had taken the path to working at a gallery or curating a museum. I could have actually put in more hours. One may not have been as stressful, but both were huge time drains. And so I don't miss the inflexibility of either career path, from my art interns to working at a law firm. I do enjoy being home more. It gives me that flexibility. But again, time management is key, and that's whatever you make of it will be what you get out of it. The next question is, do you, ever have a never-ending chore? Laundry. Laundry is a never-ending chore. It just comes and comes and comes. And then people come home and add to it. And then, of course, we don't use paper towels and products, so we have bar mops and towels and mop heads for the steamer and family cloth. And I have 2 elderly pets, and so they lay on blankets and other things, so it's kind of hard for them to get on and off furniture, so there's that. And if you have a child, what they do. I mean, it's just like the stuff. I mean, even as a minimalist, I have literally gone through bins and bins and bins of things, and yet it's back. It's like the cat. The cat came back the very next day. That kind of thing. That's laundry. It never ends. So the next question is, do you have a favorite way to relax or have me time? Well, reading is my me time. I do put in at least an hour a day of reading. It's something that I don't do necessarily because it relaxes me. I do it for a few reasons. One, I'm just kind of a nerdy person. one of my student jobs, work study when I was in college, was working in a library. It's always a safe space for me. I enjoy the company of books. I also had a grandmother who suffered an early diagnosis with stroke-induced dementia. And so I know statistically that people who read, people that engage their minds, will have less of a chance of developing that disease. And so if you've ever known anyone with it, you know it's one of the scariest and saddest diseases you've ever seen. And so I value my mind, I value my intellect and my humor and my wit, and I find that reading helps keep me focused. It keeps me sharp, and it's something that makes me happy. And so that's my me time. Let's see, the next question is, how often does your husband or significant other chip in? Well, that's kind of a tough one because my husband is a wonderful man and I love him, and he is the kindest and most sincere person. He would give his shirt off his back to help anybody, but he ain't the best when it comes to cleaning. He's kind of like a sloth in a frat party. And so he cleans the litter box or specific chores at home, and I always have a habit of kind of nitpicking him for not doing chores, but then again I kind of nitpick when he does them too, and so it's often easier for me just to do it. But on the other hand, I get a foot rub every night, and someone who will run errands for me, and someone who will give an empathetic ear to all of my complaints, and so I'd rather do the chores, have nothing to complain about, and it works. Let's see, the next question is, if you have kids, when do you find time to do chores? Well, there's always nap time. There is time when people are at school. There is time on the weekends. There is time in the evenings when other people are, having their homework checked over or spending time with dad. There's plenty of time to do that. And so I just make it a priority to get in and get out. And I find that minimalism has taken the amount of time that I clean in the house down to, say, 3/4 less. And so I am ecstatic about that. I cannot recommend it enough. If you have way too much time invested in cleaning your house every day, it might be time to simplify some stuff. And so definitely look into that. And so the next question is, how do you balance being a homemaker and creating YouTube content? I batch work. I batch everything. I use Trello. I have to have specific days, again, time block for those projects. So when that gets done, it gets done. The next question is, what is your favorite room in your home and why? My favorite room is my library/den. It is bright and airy. You can see it there behind me. It has huge floor-length windows, and something I love about the room is that on the side that you can't see facing away from you, there are floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and so I have all of my books coded by color, and it's just very, very pretty. And I have my Papazon furniture in there, and so it is very cozy for me to sit and enjoy that, or to turn on the big screen and watch some kind of news program, or back in the day I used to watch my Downton Abbey in there. So happiness in the den in the library room. Okay, let's see the next question. Least favorite room. Oh goodness. Least favorite room would probably be my kiddo's bathroom because, yeah, water in the floor, toothpaste in the sink, stains on the ceiling. I don't know where they come from. And that particular bathroom was ill-planned by the person who put it together because there is a brass sink in a smaller bath, and smaller baths tend to go for kids. And yeah, there's a ton of scrubbing back there, and the towels never stay straight, and so yeah, it's something. The next question. Do you feel your home reflects your personal style? Why or why not? Currently, my home is in transition. I went through the KonMari period several years ago, and per the second book, Spark Joy, you are to take 1 to 2 years, and kind of does not do a whole lot, so I'm still at the tail end of that transition. I do have plans later this year, and I've already allocated funds for painting my walls white. And currently I am on a no spend year, so that kind of puts a damper on that. But I will say, in terms of my plants and my back patio and my landscaping, yes, it does reflect my personal style. I would say the airy, ethereal look I have in specific rooms is wonderful. I would say my kiddos' room, that I don't put on camera for privacy reasons, is very reflective of that style. Things that could be better: wall color. Eventually, I would like to see more cohesiveness in terms of the different woods and electronics in my home, so everything kind of like matches a little bit better. At some point, I may want to put a dining room set back into my home. At one time, I had a very expensive Ethan Allen set, the Hemingway collection, and absolutely loved it, but it never got used, and so we actually donated that and downsized it to Habitat locally. And sometimes I kind of think I'd rather have kept it, but other than a few pieces like that, I'm okay. Maybe again in the future. I used to also have a pie safe and a Huser piece, if you're familiar with those, in antique kitchenware. I had them, loved them, and again, I might want another pie safe for some of my fermented foods and canned goods in my kitchen. But other than that, I'm okay for right now. And so the next question is, what does your home smell like? Well, right now my home smells like coffee. It smells like ginger because I grated ginger so that it could be pickled. Let's see what else. My home smells like bananas because I have some in the dehydrator. And it probably smells like essential oils because I have a few diffusers going with eucalyptus, clove, and sweet orange oil. So my home smells like a myriad of things. Sometimes I will burn a candle because I'm still trying to go through my stash of Yankee candles and get rid of all the paraffin in the house. And because I'd eventually like to start making soy candles, but for right now, just a lot of things going on, and it depends on where you are in the house. I have a very strong sense of smell, so I tend to think that if a room doesn't have a strong smell, it's actually cleaner. I'm not one for masking odors or cleaning difficulties with scents, and so for me, if it's not strong, I probably like it better. And the last question, what is your strong point and weak point when it comes to homemaking? Well, my strength, I think, lies in being organized and being a minimalist and being a zero waster, in which I just don't have an excessive amount of things in my home that collect dust or have to be maintained. My weak spot when it comes to homemaking is, again, I was encouraged as a child to obtain a higher education. I was told that if I did not want to go to college, then I needed to go into trade, such as, being a hairdresser. And so I had one parent who, went and got their master's degree and had a corporate job, and I had the other who was a salon manager for many, many years, and then he went on to have a corporate job as well. And so I was trained to be in school and to get a job and to provide for yourself and have nice things. I was never really told how to cook things beyond basic level. I wasn't told how to, for example, can foods or preserve foods or blanch foods or freeze things or dehydrate things or, homesteading things, nothing gardening wise, even though my grandmother had over an acre of property and it was immaculately groomed, she was very hands-on and did those things herself. And so these are things I've had to learn for myself. So my weakness in homemaking is the nitpicky things that you don't find out about until later that you needed to know. And there I was in my late 20s coming back into the home and realizing I didn't have any of these skill sets. And so I had to learn them for myself. I had to learn about knitting and crocheting and canning and food preparation and the best way to organize your linen closet and all this stuff. And I will tell you Auntie Martha and lots of aunties, Auntie Patty LaBelle's cookbook, and things of that sorting have immensely helped me. I would say that one of my favorite cookbooks, even as a vegan, I can still take inspiration from it, is Julia Child's The Art of French Cooking. Both volumes have been amazing, so I would highly recommend get your cookbook game up. I would recommend tapping into the resources of older women and aunties in your area and asking them, hey, how do you do this? How do you know how to do this? Before you hit Pinterest, ask older people, ask your neighbors, ask anybody. I have an awesome neighbor, and he has on many occasions had great advice on how to fix something or to smoke something, or yard work or horticulture concerns, or money management. Bounce ideas off of people. Ask people how they know how to do things. And so by utilizing that information base before going online, I've really helped myself on those weak points in terms of homemaking. So everyone, this was a really uber long discussion, but I hope that you enjoyed it. And as well, again, check out the description bar below and see all the other wonderful ladies in this collab.